Faza'il A'mal, More Trouble Than It's Worth, Part 31, Addendum 1, Hasan Hadith. In Part 23 of this series, I gave reference to a very well-written work that was written in 1994 by an individual called Afaf Khoghali Wahbi, and the title of the work was Hadith and Sufism in Damascus, 627 to 728. And this was a study of three individuals who have been covered in this series and this channel. They are Ibn Arabi, An-Nawawi, and Ibn Taymiyyah, and specifically their pedigree as Hadith masters. One thing I mentioned that I didn't go into detail on was the issue of the Hasan Hadith. So in part 23 I described, and I'll repeat it here because it's well worth repeating, what An-Nawawi considers to be a Sahih Hadith. He says, هو ما اتصل سنده بالعدول الضابطين من غير شذوذ ولا إلة, which could be translated into English as a tradition whose isnad is closely interlinked with reliable authorities and without any irregularity or defect. But then he gives a second type of narration called a Hasan, a fair tradition, a good tradition, and this could be translated as a tradition that has been transmitted via a well-known channel, a makhraj, and all the authorities are well-known. So this is like a secondary level. It's not grade A, it's a grade B type of hadith. And many scholars wrestled with this problem to define exactly what a Hasan hadith is. And people like Imam Tirmidhi, who died in 297, he had a combination of Hasan Sahih, Hasan hadiths. He combined terms as well. So he said, Tirmidhi said, the Hasan tradition is an isnad which does not include an authority who is suspected of telling lies, and it should be transmitted by more than one channel. Also, it should not be shadh. Shadh means it should not be irregular, and its authorities should all be well known. Then the author Khoghali Wahbi says, it seems to me that neither An-Nawawi nor the other scholars on the subject have succeeded in giving a clear definition of Hasan. Then he quotes a very famous work by Suyuti, and he evidences this by saying, Suyuti quotes in his Tadrib al-Rawi the examples of Hasan, and there is a lack of clear clarity on this topic. There's no clear definition, even in Tadrib al-Rawi of Suyuti. And then he quotes an Orientalist, and you can read what the Orientalist says. His name is Gulaim. And then he quotes what he considers to be the best definition, or the clearest definition, by another hadith scholar called Ibn Salah. And Ibn Salah says, the Hasan tradition is a tradition whose isnad includes a transmitter with a blameless record, or known to be honest and truthful, but he is not reliable as the transmitters of the Sahih in keeping the exact words when transmitting hadith. So Ibn Salah's definition is based upon the precision of the words that are actually narrated. And then it continues and goes on to give a definition of what the da'if is. Furthermore, for your education, because the GR seeks to educate you, I will give you this screenshot, which is Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's definition of the sound hadith. And you should pause this and read it many times, but this is beyond the scope of this particular video to explain this to you, because there are a lot of technical terminologies used here. And he says the Hasan hadith is not, it's less, basically, it's lighter than the authentic hadith, and he uses terms like Hasan lidhatih, and it talks about numerous chains and divisions into ranks, but this is just for your education, for you to read. It requires further clarity. This is the problem that the scholars came across when it came to defining the Hasan hadith, and here is their variation in how they understood it. Stay tuned for many more parts.